What historical context makes Bible parables clearer? Imagine trying to understand a story from a different time and place without knowing what life was like back then. That's exactly what makes Bible parables easier to grasp. When we look at the world Jesus lived in, we see a society full of farming, family traditions, and social customs that shaped how people thought and acted. Jesus often used stories about seeds, vineyards, or shepherds because those were familiar to his audience. Knowing that most people were farmers or worked with land helps us see why he used these images to teach spiritual lessons. At that time, Israel was under Roman rule, and many Jews hoped for a political leader to free them. But Jesus' stories about kings and rulers pointed to a different kind of kingdom, a spiritual one. For example, the parable of the nobleman going to a distant country hints at political issues of the day, like Herod's family politics and Roman authority. It helps listeners understand that Jesus was talking about a kingdom not of this world, but of God. Religious beliefs also played a big part. Jewish laws, temple worship, and religious leaders influenced how people saw God and faith. Jesus' parables often challenged these ideas. The story of the two sons, for example, contrasted true repentance with superficial obedience, which was a direct message to religious leaders who claimed to follow God but didn't truly live it. Jewish oral traditions and stories were common in teaching. Jesus used simple, memorable stories that people could easily remember and share. This made his lessons stick in the minds of his listeners. Understanding that parables were part of this tradition helps families see how to tell and discuss these stories at home. Economic struggles and social classes also shaped the stories Jesus told. Many parables reflected the hardships of peasants and the inequalities they faced. Stories about wealth and justice teach children about Christian values like kindness and fairness. When sharing these stories with children, explaining the setting and customs helps them understand the message better. Connecting the stories to their own experiences makes the lessons more meaningful. Knowing the historical background shows how Jesus' teachings are relevant today, crossing time and culture. Asking questions about the stories and relating them to everyday life helps children see how faith works in real life. Teaching about obedience and love through parables encourages children to live out their faith genuinely. Praying about understanding God's kingdom and applying Jesus' lessons in family life makes these stories come alive. By understanding the world Jesus spoke to, parents can help their families see the depth and richness of his teachings. It makes the stories clearer and more impactful, helping children grow in their faith and biblical knowledge.